We're here for evidentiary proceedings, non-jury trial in the Vanburen and Tyra case. The case number is D155191668. We have counsel and the parties again present. Please confirm appearance for the video record.
Good morning, Your Honor. Michael Bellabon, bar number 4436, appearing on behalf of the defendant, Daniel Tyra, who is present.
Your Honor, Michael Root, bar number 002461, for a plaintiff who is also present.
Last Friday, the 12th of February, we spent the day together hearing the testimony from 6 witnesses: Norman Baxa, Ryan Tamano, Senator Robinson, Deborah Armstrong, Pamela Capello, and Jason Vanburen. We quit at about 2:20 in the afternoon, 2:22 in the afternoon, and set this over for hopefully concluding the evidence portion of this case this morning. My notes show, Mr. Ballabon, that you were still examining the plaintiff. Is that accurate? Or had you passed the witness?
I think we passed.
Okay. So are we picking up with Mr. Vanburen, or are we getting another witness?
Your Honor, I think the only witness is Danielle, and
Perfect.
Mike can call her on direct and cross that. Maybe that's a little faster.
Okay. Then if there's nothing else that we need to attend to, let's get back to the evidence. Ma'am, come on up.
You do solemnly swear the testimony you're about to give in this action should be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God?
I do.
Please state and spell your name for the record.
Danielle Tyra, D-A-N-I-E-L-L-E-T-Y-R-A.
Have a seat.
Counsel?
Just go all the way to the microphone right in front of you.
So you're obviously the biological mother of the minor child, the subject matter of this case, Dustin Tyra.
Yes,
What was his date of birth?
July 13th, 2008.
Now, can you state when you believe that Jason was first notified that Justin was in fact the biological father of Dustin?
Dustin, yes. As soon as I found out I was pregnant, which was at almost 6 months, I called and notified him.
Now, there's testimony, if I remember correctly, that there may have been other people, that
Yes.
may have been the parents. When do you know how was he notified when you were pregnant?
Well, as soon as I found out I was pregnant by ultrasound, I was 22 weeks and 5 days, and I backtracked that, and the 2 people that I was with was Jason, which was all through that month, about 5 times, and that once was Eric, and the other possibility, he was quickly ruled out because I was already pregnant at that time. He was just a possibility, so I notified him right when I found out I was pregnant. I went to his house when I was 7 months pregnant to, inform him that it's definitely, I didn't know I've had trouble carrying children. I had a stillborn at 8 months. I lost twins at 5.5 months. So I had a lot of complications with my daughter. I had to have ultrasounds every 3 days from 6 to 9 months. But it looked like, I was going to definitely go through having him. And I was actually pregnant at 7 months, I was showing. But when I went over there, he got me a ride home real fast. He had a girlfriend there that he didn't want to see me, I guess, from what I know. Also, when my son was born, my daughter called him as I was in labor, and he said he was going to show up there. He didn't show up. At a week old, I brought Dustin up to his home because he lived right up the street from me at the time with my friend Brittany. I took Dustin to him. He said he's seen Dustin. He got me a ride home again immediately. So he acknowledged he was his son at 4 months. He came over to the house that I was at because there was some problems in there, and the people were stealing things. Because I was in a house I rented a room from the Help of Southern Nevada, and he came over there to tell the people that they gotta go, and he said he'd done that because Dustin, so he acknowledged Dustin was his son. And when he was born, his hair, it was red. and it quickly ruled out, I mean, the resemblance is non-deniable with Jason and Dustin.
So it's your belief that he believed that at a minimum of 4 months,
Yeah.
that he was the biological father of Dustin?
Yeah, absolutely. And at 10 months, by 10 months, there was no denying it. But I don't know if his mother knew at that time. I heard that he was denying Dustin to everybody. He was at a place where Brittany's father was, that he's friends with. And on my son's first birthday, he asked him, Ron Miller is his name, he said, hey, are you going to say happy birthday to your son? And he's like, I don't got a son, But I guess when they went back into the back room, this is what I was told, that he said, hey, don't do that stuff in front of my friends,
He told you that?
No, the Ron Miller, a mutual friend of ours. He was over at their house, yeah.
Did he offer any financial support at that time?
No, he did buy him a bottle of formula,
One bottle?
one bottle.
Or like a can of Similac or something like that?
It was just, yeah.
Did you have any communications with his mother
None.
in the early years?
None. I didn't even know how to get in touch with her or nothing. I had communication with his aunt and uncle, which is how I got his last name, because I didn't even know his last name was Vanburen or how to spell it when I was filing for paternity testing through the state.
How long did you know Jason prior to the conception of the child?
Not long. We met and just started messing around. I mean, that's pretty much was the extent of our
Couple of
relationship.
months, 2 months, 6 months, and do you have an estimate, or it was just less than that?
Less than that, actually, yeah.
Are you aware of any of the activities, criminal activities that Jason was involved in at that time?
At that time, no. At that time, I didn't ever really communicate with him. I know that he was coming in from California and that my ex-boyfriend was his very best friend, which is how I met him. And I became to learn about some things. My ex was in and out of some trouble, and I know that, there was gang stuff, like the scar that Jason has on across his face is from a knife gang fight that they got in when he was younger. There were stolen cars, stuff like that.
Were you aware of any drug use on Jason's part?
I was sure there was, but I really didn't get involved in his personal life. We just got together and went from there. I mean, whenever we seen each other, we pretty much just slept together.
I believe Jason's testimony was that he established a relationship with his child early on. Is that accurate?
Not at all.
Can you state at what point, if ever, prior to the initiation of these proceedings, that he established a relationship with your son?
Right now, the relationship is not good still.
We'll get to that. I'm talking about, let's get to before.
Okay, no, absolutely not. He did come over and visit after he found out by paternity test. I think he was more there to visit, it seemed like Eric, because after I split up with Eric the first time, about a year went by, and that's when me and Jason actually got together and fooled around. When he found out I got back together with Eric after Dustin was born, he'd come over and, hey, let's go out, and when he'd come over and visit, it was more to see Eric, it seemed.
So Eric was your boyfriend,
Yes.
and he was a live-in boyfriend
Yes, for a couple of years.
for a couple years?
Yes.
Now, there was testimony about Eric, there's indications that there was restraining orders filed, et
Yes.
cetera, et cetera.
There was.
First, let me say, did Eric ever physically abuse your son while he was living with him?
No, absolutely not. And that's why when me and Eric got back together, he was awesome. I mean, my son still looks at him as dad. And he knows Jason's his real dad, and he understands this now. And in front of Jason, Dustin would call Eric dad, and Jason, he didn't know, he was too young to understand. Jason was okay with this. Jason was going to, Eric at this time did not believe he could have children, and I thought he was a changed man. I really did. He seemed awesome he backslid after a year and a half. He seemed to start backsliding, and that's when things went bad. But that from 15 months to almost 4 years old, Eric is the one who was there. And that's who he, called Dad. And we always planned on telling Dustin the truth because their friendship, Eric and Jason's friendship is, since 5 years old. It wasn't something I planned on happening, but Eric was really good to Dustin, very good to Dustin.
Now, there came a time when you had to get a restraining order.
Yes.
I believe it was, what was that for?
He got abusive with me, and he came and kicked my door in because I wouldn't let him in the house. That's when I got the restraining order. I had him arrested twice. First time I had him arrested, he came back, kicked my door in. That's when I got the restraining order and had him arrested again because I wasn't gonna live like that. And
Is it fair to say that after the first incidents of physical abuse that you terminated the
Yes.
relationship?
absolutely,
So there wasn't some ongoing pattern of
No.
physical abuse that was going on?
no.
When did his mother first have any contact with your son?
After the paternity test at almost 2 years old. I welcomed her over. I welcomed anybody over, being that I have, my son has, on my side, both my parents are passed, and it's important for him to have a grandmother. So I welcomed them, and I, wanted her to visit him first at the house for a while, let him get to know her a little bit. She was very eager to take him, and take him out, and I let her, even though he's crying, I tried my best. Where problems started to happen is where they had no, I started getting put down for the medication he was on. The child did not sleep. He started taking clonidine at 2 years old by Dr. Alfreda Maller, his pediatric neurologist. They were upset with me for that, but when a child sleeps 2-3 hours, maybe light sleep, by 2 years old, I said there's something just not right.
Okay, we'll get into the medical issues. I'm just trying to establish now the contact that you have facilitated.
His mom, the grandmother, she has been the one that has really went the distance. She would apologize to me for Jason not being involved. She would hand me, like if she had $10 extra, she really shows for Dustin. She cares for Dustin. I know that she does. She would come over. I would allow the visits. I would allow her to take him, and everything was okay for a while.
Now, it was indicated with regard to his mother, some pretty bad text messages that you
Yeah.
sent that were introduced as exhibits.
Yes.
How is it that this relationship that you established got to that point? Can you explain to the court what motivated that and how you feel about that now?
Okay, I did apologize for the things that I've said to her. The day that I was pretty cruel to her was the day my son was in the hospital for anaphylactic shock. It was really bad. I was very angry because the thing is, what started to become in between the relationship with me and his grandmother is now that Dustin got older, and when I split up with Eric, when it was done, my son didn't see him at all for 3 years. I mean, it was like my son would wake up every night asking, where's Daddy? And it's just had to be that way, though, because, what was
Daddy
going on.
Eric or Daddy Jason?
Eric. And that's what Dustin would start saying was Daddy Eric and Daddy Jason. Jason don't like that. Jason let him know he don't like that. With the grandmother, what started causing problems between me and her is that whenever she would visit Dustin or take Dustin, she would call and put Dustin on FaceTime. She'd basically start pushing Dustin on Jason. And I said, look, it's a little too much right now. I'd appreciate it if you don't do that every time you get him, because Jason don't bother. Let Jason come around to him. Let Jason warm up to him. And, I understand she wants Jason to be a dad, and and to care. It's Jason's first child. I was like, just give him time instead of, pushing it on him. And I understand Carol's just trying to do that's her son, but it was affecting my son mentally. Because he's, he missed Eric really bad. And Jason didn't bother. Jason has hung up the phone on my son. I would call, I would text. The only way I could talk to Jason was a text. He'd never respond. Pretty much the same thing he does now. He rarely responds. If he responds, he calls and he's yelling, he's upset.
What kind of contact, can you describe the contact that Jason had with your son in his first year of life?
None.
Can you describe any kind of financial or material
No,
support that Jason
nothing,
provided?
nothing. I couldn't even find where Jason was. I mean, the first year, Jason was never at his aunt and uncle's house. I took him to him that one time when he was a week old. When he bought him a bottle of formula was when Eric, before we got together again, was with Monica, and we all went over to Jason's house. And Eric told me that Jason was like, man, why'd you bring her over here? Because I had my son with me. And he bought us a bottle of formula for Dustin. I guess just wanted to get us out of there. He didn't want nothing to do with it.
When did he ever have do you know when he moved to California? Do you recollect
About
that?
2 months after he found out Dustin was his by blood, by DNA test.
So, I don't know, about 2010 thereabouts in that year.
Yeah,
And after he moved to California in 2010, what type of contact
There
did
was
he
none.
have? When was the first time that he had any contact or?
about 2 years ago, he came and visited on Christmas Eve, brought him some presents, stuff like that. And when, I try to explain to him at all times that Dustin is, he has some challenges and things that he understands and don't understand. His hyperness, he's extremely ADHD. He has had problems with anxiety, which he was on a medication called Zoloft for that. He would pick holes in his skin. Jason never said.
We'll get to the medical.
Okay,
So go on
okay.
with regard to, I'm just trying to establish the nature of Jason's contact.
Well, yeah, he would come if he was in town for a couple of days. There was times he was in town, he didn't even visit. There was times he was in town, I heard from people, and Eric too.
He, listen carefully to your counsel's questions. He's
Okay.
not asking you to say what someone else told you.
Okay,
The objection's sustained. Go on.
okay.
So, 2 years ago, there was a Christmas contact.
That's when they first started, he first met him as dad.
Did you deny him that contact?
No.
Do you remember how that was established, or that you found out that he was going to be coming in and he wanted to see him for Christmas?
Well, in between communication from me and his mother, Carol, she would always notify me when Jason was gonna come in town,
Well, let's backtrack a little bit. Prior
Okay.
to that, how often did you allow Carol to see your son?
whenever she.
On average?
Whenever she asked, which was a couple times a month it started, and then it slowly drifted off a little bit to like once every few months, whenever she could. She works a lot, and I understand that, so I never gave her a hard time about it.
So how was it, so Carol notified you that he was coming into town, wanted to see Dustin for
Yeah.
Christmas?
Mhm.
You allowed that?
Yes.
Okay, subsequent to that, when was his next contact, if you can remember?
It would be about once every 6 months maybe when he comes out, but they would never even talk on the phone. They had no relationship. The relationship is, he'd contact him, Dustin would always call him. Jason rarely calls for him,
So he had your contact number,
always,
and he never called?
right.
So, you're saying, did you ever deny him? Was his lack of contact based on your desire to not,
No.
for him not to have a relationship with Dustin?
No, the only time that I did start to deny him, and I wanted to make a point to him that bouncing in and out every 6 months or whichever is not ideal for Dustin because it's disturbing him. It's disturbing him. to spend some quality time with him at the house. Instead of everything's run, fun. And plus to let me guide him a little bit. I want to help them to know each other. That's where it's all went bad. They don't, yeah.
Well, it went bad, but in 2015, you didn't deny him contact, did you?
No. I did deny him one time, and I just told him it was because straight walking in there, barking orders at him. You call her ma'am, me sir. I said, wait a minute, that's not the right way to do this. You know, just try to get to know your son first and let me handle him. But you know, let's start easy.
What contact did he have in 2015? Well, I believe there was an incident or a visitation that occurred on the boy's birthday in 2015.
Oh, yeah, I invited him to Dustin's birthday party, as I did every birthday party. On the way to the Pump It Up, where his birthday party was, Dustin was playing with a kid in the back, and they were playing and hitting each other, and I was telling Dustin, no, stop. Dustin, stop.
Was that in the car?
Yes, that was in the truck he has. And Jason jumped in the middle of it, turned around, grabbed his finger, and he had two friends in the back with him, twisted it up to where he cried. He said, you're hurting me. And he told him he'll break his finger off if he does that again.
Now, there was another incident that occurred that resulted in you filing for a restraining order.
Yes.
If you look at your exhibits that you have,
Where are defendants? Do you have those? What letter?
it's exhibit G, it's a TPO.
Okay. Do you have the letter exhibits in front of you?
I do, but I'm trying to find, okay, exhibit H.
No,
It's labeled number 24.
Okay.
The date stamp, Randy, is 024.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Now, why did you have to file for this restraining order? This was in, looks like it was issued on March of 2013.
This is right when Jason first became into Dustin's life and was introduced to him as dad. And they were on the trampoline that Jason bought for him. And Jason was on the telephone and Dustin was on the trampoline. I left to go to the bathroom.
Was this at your residence?
Yes. And when I came out of the bathroom, my son comes in the back door gasping for breath, teary-eyed, says, my daddy hit me in the stomach. And
Did you confront Jason about that?
well, first thing I did was hail my son and convinced him that he didn't mean to do it and tried to calm him down first. But yeah, I don't like to make any confrontation in front of my son. I'll resort to text messages because I don't want to verbally have any kind of argument in front of my son. And I got ignored, basically. That's,
So you filed for this restraining order and it was granted,
yes.
but you don't know if he was served or not?
I don't know if he was served or not because I didn't even have his address in California.
After that incident that occurred, what happened? Did he leave or what happened?
Within the hour, yeah. Within the hour.
And you invited him for that visit.
Yes, I invited him, yeah.
How do you feel that, well, let me ask you this, we'll stick with the contact. How many overnight visitations did Jason have with your son prior to the initiation of these proceedings?
None. None. I even offered him to stay the night with Dustin at my home. And it was made out to be something that it wasn't. It was, I guess that was the way he got out of that, was saying that I was trying to get with him or something, and it was nothing about that. It was, your son wanted you to stay the night at his home with him. I mean, quality time, you know, where you guys could actually just get to know each other. I mean, that's where it's gonna start. Dustin can be difficult to understand. I mean, you've gotta have quality time with him and get to know him.
How would you describe the relationship that exists now between Jason and your son?
My son says he's mean. He doesn't have the patience for him. Dustin requires a lot of patience and a lot of understanding. Jason doesn't understand. He don't have the patience for him. He is a first-time dad. It's gonna take a while. It's gonna take understanding. It's gonna take getting to know him. It's gonna take quality time. It's gonna take my help. For them two to understand each other, but Jason has been very close to his disabilities, as in, for example, his way of handling, my son has a weakness in his fingers, okay? I button his shirts, I brush his hair, I help him brush his teeth. Buttoning his shirts, he has difficulty doing. Jason tied a knot in his pants so tight that when he came home, this knot that was tied in his with a belt, my son got his ding stuck pulling up his pants. I mean, it's so small, but that's how he helps him.
Do you feel that Jason believes, if you have knowledge of this, that your son even suffers from disability?
He has argued me with everything I say. If I say something with Dustin, it's not true and I gotta prove it.
Do you believe that he believes in the medication that's being prescribed by
No, he's always
Dustin's
had.
doctors? Has he mentioned anything to you about what he feels about the medication?
He's always put me down for it.
Who does he blame for Dustin's problems?
He said I'm his disability.
Say again?
I'm his disability, he tells me. Dustin's only disability is me.
To your knowledge, prior to the initiation of these incident proceedings, has Jason been involved at all with any of the doctors that you've taken Dustin to see?
Not at all. And that was another thing, is I put his name immediately on the school list. I put his name on his pediatrician's, who's been his regular pediatrician since a newborn. Now, Jason calls me and, well, what about this and what about this? Or what about this? And I'm like, Jason, your name is on there. You're welcome to the information. I don't have to collect it up for you and give it to you. That's not my job. You are his parent. I don't have to do it for you. Your name's there. You're welcome to it all.
So you put his name on with school authorities?
The school, his pediatrician, and anywhere he's went, yes.
Now, I believe you've sought out medical treatment. Let's go into some of the issues that you've had to deal with regard to Dustin. What are some of his disabilities?
Okay, OCD. He's been diagnosed with everything. They really don't. He has ADHD without a doubt. He was on Zoloft for anxiety. He would fight himself with everything he did. He'd pick holes in his skin. If he has a freckle, to the point where it's bleeding at night, he got a scar on his forehead. I'd have to put mittens on as like 3 years old because even in his sleep, it was just a habit. He's just had a really difficult time. He has developmental delays. His comprehension. I had him in a stroller to 6 years old because he don't look out for cars for his safety. 6 years old, he still does not know how to look out for cars, and it has nothing to do with not being taught. Absolutely. He's with me everywhere I go. People can't watch him because he's a handful. You're all on your feet, and he's difficult. It takes a lot of patience. He can hold my hand now as we go across streets, but it took that step before I was able to get him out of the stroller. But he really doesn't comprehend some things.
Now, our Exhibit A, which is, if you take a look at that, what is Exhibit A?
Oh, all his medications that he's been on. We've been through, Ritalin and Adderall did not work for him. This is where problems came in his school. His sleeping habit as well. He takes right now 4 milligrams of clonidine. I am told by the neurologist, Alfreda Meller, and the manager there, which is Greta Stevens, he should not be waking up. He still wakes up through the night. There's nothing I could do. Once he wakes up, He will stay up, he has stayed up all night and I've sent him to school. I can't do nothing once he wakes up. I can't give him no more medication. I don't know what to do. He don't sleep. And they told me when he was 2 years old that he got severe ADHD. They said that's why he don't sleep. It looks like they were right, because that's still a big problem. His sleep is a huge problem. And with him not being given his medications correctly, when Jason has them, he flat out has not given him his medications.
Well, let's talk about that issue.
Okay.
And I know there's a number of issues, but
Yes.
try to catch them all. With
Okay.
regard to the medication, after this court ordered Dad, or allowed Dad to have a weekend visitation, I think 1 or 2 a month, has that had any impact in terms of
Yeah.
on your son emotionally that you have?
Massive. He has.
Explain the effects or what you have witnessed since Jason has had these visitations that he says are just wonderful
Okay.
and have gone extremely well.
I have to keep him on a regular routine. When he goes to bed on a school night, he goes to bed by 7:30, 8 at the latest, because it has to stay routine, it has to stay scheduled. He was not given, just at his last visit, his clonidine to go to bed. He had to take the drive to California, stayed up the whole time. He called me, he wanted to come home. I don't know what was going on, he wasn't happy. The way I handled it was I said, don't tell on your grandma, Dustin, because I don't want him to also, because I know, kids are gonna learn to work both sides. And I said, you can't call me, tell on grandma, so you just be a good boy, and I'll talk to you later, Dustin, okay? So that way I made it easier on both of them. That's what I always try to do, is diffuse the situation. But he was not given his clonidine until at least midnight that night. Now when Dustin comes back to me, and when he's not given his Intuitive as well, which is a non-sedative for ADHD, his sleep, it takes him about 2 weeks to get back right. There's nothing I can do. When the sleep is, like I've said, he stayed up all night once and I had to send him to school like that. He made it all day in school. But mentally it wrecks him, his behavior, everything.
What are some of the behaviors that you've witnessed when he gets back from the weekend visits?
He's really angry at me. He's really angry at me. He was taught by his dad in the beginning that girls stink. They have a clubhouse out there. No women allowed because women stink. And the thing about me and my son is, he always loves the way I smell because I wear a lot of perfume. He loves it. Well, he has put his hands on me for the first time ever in his life. And that was when I had him in his appointment for physical therapy to get an assessment on him, because he has, for some reason, for him to walk fast really hurts him. Hurts his legs. I don't know why. And also for his hand, his fingers, because to write, his hand shakes and it hurts. He got a lot of numbness in the palm of his hand. Well, he was doing gymnastics and flipping off. He was unmanageable. He was unmanageable. And I called Jason for help, just hoping, trying anything, because he really needed this appointment. I couldn't even work with him myself, and that's odd. It's not, me and Dustin do very well together. He's an awesome little guy. He's a loving child, but no, when he comes back from his dad, he's angry. The tantrums are unbelievable, and it just destroys me and him. And I've came a long ways with him. He has made a lot of progress. He's got hope to have his own life. So that's my goal.
Now, you've sought out medical treatment for Dustin several times.
Yes, I have, and I found one thing that worked, and I'm in the process right now of getting a script from the pediatrician. It's called the on-dam machine. Now, I told Jason and Carol about this. The place that I went to, that I was referred to by Clear Minds for Dustin, for regular medications, is, they brought him in the back and they used this on-dam machine for 8 minutes on him. And by the end of that month, we actually hit into a weekend, ran out of medication. He had to go without his medication for 2 days. He was fine. I couldn't believe, he had to take his clonidine, but even the behavioral therapist said, wow. I went back into this clinic, I got him another treatment. When I went to get his medications, I went home, they switched his clonidine to time release. He was up for 2 days. And he tried to convince me that that was his regular medication, was time release clonidine. No, he used clonidine to put him to sleep, to sedate him to sleep. It screwed everything up, but I just now got to where they're gonna give me a non-damaging for home. He took no ADHD medication. He was calm. It was awesome. It was the first time in his life in 4 years that he was not on medication for ADHD. I believe that machine is the answer. It's all natural. I've seen it work. I've seen it. I've displayed it on my Facebook, letting people know that it works. It works.
So you've continued to seek out treatments to try to resolve the medical issues that he has?
Absolutely, yeah.
Including taking him for counseling to Mr. Ryan.
And I took him to another behavioral therapist outside of the home as well at the same time.
How long have you been taking him to see Ryan?
Ryan comes to my home once a week for almost 2 years now.
Was Ryan aware of who the father was?
Well, and he was aware that there was a father, that there wasn't much, it wasn't much, he wasn't
How
involved.
many sessions between Ryan and Dustin did Jason sit in on prior to the initiation of these
Only one.
proceedings?
No, before the proceedings, none, never.
How much involvement did Jason have with Dustin's schooling prior to the initiation of these proceedings?
Never, nothing.
To your knowledge, did he ever contact CCSD and inquire about what's going on with regard to his schooling prior to the initiation of these proceedings?
He had so much less involvement that the way I was dealing with this was let Dustin grow up a little bit more and then, explain to him and, what he was Dustin was starting to notice that other people had dads and, he was starting to question me a little bit. So I really didn't know how to handle it except for explain to him the best I can. Your dad's lives in another state. He'll come around.
With regard to financial support that you've been receiving from Justin, did you file a petition with the DA?
For child support, yes. I didn't get a dime, a penny for 6 solid years. 6 years. Nothing. And in 2015, his balance at $100 an hour, at $100 a month. In 2015, his balance was $2,500. He just didn't pay nothing, ever.
So I would refer you to Exhibit C, which is, that's numbered at the bottom, 015.
Okay. Okay.
Was that an order that was obtained on your behalf by the state
Yes.
to establish child support for the first time?
Yes, and it states there that the court master, having found the respondent was properly served on December 11, 2009, and having found that the respondent has failed to respond as required by law, finds, ratifies, or confirms as follows. He didn't bother.
So they couldn't prove up his income, so they set up child support at $100 a month?
Right, yeah, well, actually, when he just got released from jail, that's how they contacted him when he was in jail for child support, because I found out, I got word that he was locked up. And that's where I told him he was. He's in the CCDC, you'll find him there. So that's how we got the paternity test done.
Did the non-payment of, did the non-provision of any material support or financial support, was that frustrating to you?
Yes. Especially that my son was disabled. That was the main thing that upset me.
Now, you attempted to pursue this, you contacted you're not getting any money, so you would contact them. Is that correct? After this was filed?
Yeah. And then he stayed, he has had a good job for 4 years. And he still ditched and dodged and wage withhold and still stayed at $100 a month. He's supposed to turn in his employers whenever he switches jobs. He was driving a truck, diesels, before the engineering.
I'm gonna refer you to our Exhibit D, which is labeled 020 at the bottom.
Okay, Civic D. Okay,
And that's a letter that you received from Orange County Child Support Services.
yes,
That's dated 6/22/2013.
yes.
What does it state there in the second paragraph that you've highlighted?
At this time, we do not have enough information to identify or locate the non-custodial parent. If you have any new information regarding the whereabouts of the non-custodial parent, please provide this to us by using one of the following methods, by contacting them.
Okay, so that's enough. So at that time, you still didn't know where he lived?
No, and that was another issue that I would argue with his mom about, because see, everything goes through his mother. It felt like, I told him, look, this is his, I feel like I've had the child with her, and I was getting upset by it, because she's blocking, defending him, making excuses for him. Can Jason handle his own? Can Jason speak to me? Because there's no reason I should have to go and talk to you for Jason. Can Jason handle this? That was upsetting.
When did you first start receiving money? Do you remember? You don't have to be.
A year and a half, maybe?
And how much do you currently receive from
$100
child
a
support?
month,
$100 a month?
yes.
And there was a hearing about child support in January of this year?
Yes, and I just got a payment of $500 put on my card yesterday of back child support.
So that was, it indicated, I haven't seen that, that was indicated for back support that was owed?
Yes, absolutely. In 2015, it was $2,500 still, at $100 a month.
Now, let's talk about your residence history.
Okay.
There's been some evidence put on about evictions, et cetera. What is your current physical address?
4336 Fabergé Avenue, 89115.
And what is that, an apartment, a condo,
It's a
a
house.
house?
It's a house.
What type of house? How big?
It's a 3-bedroom, 2-bath, backyard, 2-car garage,
And how long have you maintained continuous residence there?
about 5 years.
5 years?
Yeah.
So how many eviction complaints were filed against you with regard to your current residence?
1,
And that's when you
This-
had to reach out?
yes.
What did you do when that happened?
I turned to Jason, and being that he owed me a lot of the money, I asked him for $1,000. And I even offered him, because I was desperate, I didn't think he was gonna do it. I offered to take $2,000 off the back child support that he owed me, just to make it worth his while.
Did he give you the money?
Yeah, he did. He gave it to her, his mom handled it. But his mom gave the manager, when I asked her for the stub, the receipt for he gave me $1,000, I had $500. Okay, so the $1,000 that they paid, she did not give me the receipt to that. That caused the eviction because I got another 14-day letter for the month of July, the next day after this eviction was resolved. I went to court, I couldn't prove that the almost $1,500 was paid. I didn't have the receipt to it.
So how did that get resolved?
The judge ordered me evicted.
How did you get back in?
I came up with the $900, and that was another issue because I was being overcharged. What initially started this eviction was I got a phone call the last week of April from the housing saying, we didn't get your payment this month. And I always send it in the postal mail. I said, well, okay, what do I do? They said I have to get notarized papers, I have to get Western Union, they have to do a money order trace, and they have to make sure nobody cashed it, and then they will reissue me a money order for the balance. And this whole process took 30 days. I go in to pay my next month's rent, and she's got to divvy it up in like $1,800. I said, look, I can't pay that. And why would you do that when you know what's going on? And it just got all confusing from there. I got evicted 2 weeks after my back surgery. It was very brutal, which I filed for a Section 504 hearing because I'm disabled to explain the situation of how can you build up all that kind of a charge to more than money I even make, to $1,800. I can't pay that. There was no way I could pay it. It was crazy, but I missed that hearing because I just got out of the hospital by phone. I had a massive back surgery. It was 3 days after I got out, they just went forward. So it was just brutal. It was just hard to handle. I had a lot going on.
Since that time, have you maintained payments in a timely
Absolutely.
manner?
Yeah, mhm,
Prior to that time, you'd maintained payments in a timely manner?
yeah.
What, you're raising a son that's disabled, has various disabilities, medical issues. You too have had your own medical issues
Yeah,
to compound how difficult
Oh,
things
yeah.
have been a little bit for you.
I've had 2 knee surgeries. I've had 2 cysts removed from my left knee, one in the middle, one in the back behind my knee. I have a lesion in my ankle. I have osteoporosis. I've had bar screws, brackets from the middle of my spine all the way down to my tailbone. I had disc L5 replaced. It was a massive surgery. It was I was in the hospital for 3 days. I got out June 17th. Now I have to go back in. I have to have 4 discs in my neck replaced, yeah. So it's
Was
just,
the, do you know, if you know, was Jason's mother aware that you were having some of these medical issues?
absolutely. Yeah, I mean, I was struggling every day. My legs, I couldn't, I dragged it was hard. I lost my walking.
Your Honor, perhaps it's helpful, my client Carol, nobody asked, but Carol's gonna be our last witness if the court allows, so I guess you better stay outside.
I asked her if she was gonna be a witness, she said no.
Oh, she's
Yeah,
not?
I
All right.
object
Okay.
strenuously
Okay.
to that.
All right.
That's fine, that's fine. We covered, you know the rules, Mr. Rude.
Yes.
You're 45 minutes too late. Go on, counsel.
I was in a lot of pain all the time, and it showed. To walk anywhere was really hard. And plus Dustin, like, he's always with me, but I struggled.
So his mother was aware of these issues that you were
Yeah.
having?
Yeah,
At that
they're-
time, did Jason ever contact you and ask you if you might need some assistance with Dustin?
No. She mentioned things at time in a manipulative way. And that was another issue that came between us all, because every time they come around, it was ill will. It was frustrating for me because I didn't see, like, taking pictures inside my home. It was all about a setup. It wasn't about getting to know Dustin. It was about, let's take Dustin away from her. I don't get it.
When do you believe that the time started that they started to formulate this plan to try to take custody?
When Jason, about 2 years ago, when he first found out that he was receiving disability.
Now, there's some issues that have been indicated in the pleadings regarding your criminal history.
Yeah,
So I think it's fair to say that you had some involvement with the criminal justice system in the past.
yeah.
When was the last time that you've had any involvement in the criminal justice system?
It's been over 10 years. I mean, except for what happened when I got arrested for me and my son's medication. I had it in my medic bottle instead of having my medication in a prescription bottle. And I got arrested for that. They did drop charges. And the petty larceny that was on that was when I walked out of the store. I was having a heck of a time with Dustin. I went through the line. I paid for the CD. I did have some things sitting on top of the stroller. I just forgot. That was it. And that's what led them to search my purse. And when they searched my purse, they found the medication in there that wasn't in the prescription bottle. But that charge was dropped. They arrested me for possession of dangerous drugs. It was 1 dose of my son's ADHD medication and his sleep medicine and my pain medicine, 1 pill of my pain medicine, 1 pill of the muscle relaxer. That was it.
Currently, do you go out and party a lot?
I never go out.
Do you date men?
I don't even have boyfriends in my home. All my time is devoted to my son. I don't have time nor patience for interference like that. To me, that's what it is interference. I have, given up that part of my life gladly because my son needs my 24/7 guidance. He don't sleep well. I mean, I don't know, why, if a guy was to come around, they're not really concerned about my son or what, so I don't deal with it. I have went out maybe 4 times since my son's been born. That's it. I mean,
Do you
and that was
drink
to movies.
alcohol?
I'm sorry?
Do you drink alcohol?
Occasionally, very rarely.
Do you do any drugs other than those which you are
Absolutely
prescribed?
not. Absolutely not. The medication I take is plenty enough.
What medications are you currently taking?
Lortab and Soma.
And how long have you been taking those?
for almost a solid 4 years.
And that's based on, to treat what?
My medical conditions, I have to have my knee replaced still. The last surgery they did on my knee, they smoothed each side of the bone because they said osteoarthritis has just ate it up, and it's bone to bone. I have no cartilage, I have nothing. My knee has to be replaced, but that surgery's gotta wait now for my next surgery. I'm in constant pain a lot. I actually was able to go, after they did my back surgery, the doctor, Jason Garber, did an awesome, awesome job. And for a week and a half, I was without pain medicine for the first time. And I was amazed. And then they did the burning my nerves with radio frequency in my neck from that day forward, wiped me out. I mean, my neck right now, you can see the swelling here. I mean, it's really bad. 4 discs in my neck have to be replaced.
Do these
So,
medical
we'll
issues
get back in.
prevent you from being able to take care adequately for your son?
No, they don't, absolutely. Especially, I mean, if any time that I was struggling was before my back surgery, it was a battle. I had a hard time. It was a battle.
Do you have anybody that assists you with Dustin while in Las Vegas?
My daughter will help, but she works too.
Does she help?
Huh?
Does she help?
She does help. She
And
does
what's your
help, like
daughter's
today,
name?
getting him to school, yeah. But she works too, but no, I'm on my own, majority of the time, because my daughter does not have the patience herself, and it's understandable, because Dustin, he's a ham, she could help, she could watch him for a couple hours if I need to go to the store to help, but, you know, she's 23 years old, Dustin is, you're on your feet, steady with him. You know, that's why nobody babysits him. The only people that watch my son for me once in a blue moon will be my neighbors, right across the street, and they're the only people I really speak with, but they're aware of, you can't let him run outside. They know him. They know him.
Now let's talk about the education issue.
Okay,
Much has been said about it.
yes,
Obviously, it hasn't been the perfect situation. You've had struggles.
yes.
Describe your education history with Dustin,
Okay.
starting from the very beginning.
Okay. At 3 years old, he started attending Gold Farm Elementary. This is pre-kindergarten. At 3 years old, he went from Gold Farm Elementary to Snyder Elementary. Then I moved from the Villas Apartments to the house when I got the house, which it was a 7-year wait to get that house. When I had it,
The one you're in now?
I'm sorry?
The one house you're in now?
Yes. And it was the best thing that I did when I went and signed up on the list, because I didn't know where my future was gonna be. I have my adult daughter for family. I mean, that's pretty much what I had. After I had a real bad seizure and lost everything I had, I seen a neurologist, Dr. Morton Heisen, for that. I couldn't even speak right for a year. I went and filed out for housing, because I battled the streets at that time. That was the best thing I ever did. I got my house, but it took 7 years of steady staying on it. If it wasn't for that, I don't know what I would have done. But as far as my son's education now, the principal at the school right now, Mr. Popek,
Well,
Dustin's,
let's go back to the history rather than
Yeah, okay.
where we're at now.
I've had him in, he's taken the bus by himself, starting at 3 years old. And he went from Gold Farm Elementary pre-kindergarten to Snyder Elementary pre-kindergarten, and then to, when I moved, they switched him to Woolley Elementary. Problem started there. Bus driver squeezed his hand really bad. He came off the bus holding both hands like this, because at this age, Justin couldn't tell me nothing. He couldn't tell me about the day. I did this, his speech is not there. So when he came off the bus holding both hands out like this, I was like, what's going on? He said, the bus driver did this. He was able to show me this. Bus driver admitted it to me, okay?
What did you do as a result of that? What happened?
The bus driver got fired.
And did you pull them out of school, or what? I mean,
They
you-
switched him to Lois Craig Elementary. They transferred him. I don't know why, but that's what they did. Then they transferred him to Match Elementary. I come to find out that what happened was they did this assessment on him. I didn't even have knowledge of it, and it was basically manipulated to where they put him down as socially emotionally disturbed, from a child with developmental delays to a behavioral issue. And that's where the argument began with the school. But also, when he was going to the school, we were going through, they had him on Adderall. They wanted him to stay on it. Adderall wrecked him. They wanted him to stay on Ritalin. With these medications, it was impossible. And with his sleeping, Manch Elementary, okay, there was a lot of absences there. And what that problem was, is the school started at 7 a.m. I said, look, there's no way. What I did, I said, what I could do is I would get him up and get him to school every day regardless. And that's how it's gonna have to start, because that's the best I could do. They gave me trouble from there and out. I mean, it's out of my hands with his sleeping. He didn't get his sleep was just now for like the last 4 months prior to all this court stuff and Jason's visitation, finally pattern. It took a long time, but the pattern is almost shot again. He's still getting up and getting to school. There's days he's had to miss because Jason not giving him his intuitive at all. He didn't even give him his sleep medicine one night and let him stay up all night, and then Skype him back to me. I've had to get to my doctor's appointments, riding a bus, Dustin's sleeping, I can't carry him. It's been hard. It's been hard.
Were the absences that are indicated, which are substantial, were those caused,
Medication and
was that
sleep.
caused by you out partying and being
I don't
negligent?
go out. I don't go out ever. I stay home every day. I don't have people in and out my home. I don't got time for that. There is no time for it. No, I'm
What
devoted.
would be the cause of the absences when he was attending school?
His sleep, medication issues. I mean, that's stuff that's out of my hands. I mean, there's nothing I could do at that point. That's why I'm going, I even spoke with Pam, the ex-foster mom. We talked about taking him out of state for sleep studies from Dr. Phil. Because the way he don't sleep, at 4 milligrams of clonidine is an adult dose. I'm very concerned. I don't like it. I want my son to be able to sleep without medication. I don't know what to do. But the doctors, they're not really they don't know what to do, I guess.
Now, there came a time when you completely pulled him out of school. I believe that was
Yes.
on or about January of 2014.
Yeah, I did. He was left,
Why did you do that?
he was left in anaphylaxis shock.
What happened that day? And I remember, I believe it was one of our witnesses testified about that, was
Yeah.
actually there.
Yeah,
What school was he attending at that time?
Manch Elementary. And he started with Loman. That's where the more absent. He was in Loman Elementary for 3 weeks, which is his regular zone school. The principal walked up to me when I was going to put him in class in the morning and said, he can't go here no more. I said, why? He said, he got to go to Manch. I said, why? Because that's got the kind of class that he needs. I said, well, what do you mean? He said, seriously emotionally disturbed. I said, but that's not my son. I said, my son has expressive and receptive language problems, comprehension issues, ADHD severely, and insomnia. So, well, they said until you take him over there, he can't go here. So I had a standoff with him, but I winded up taking him there because I couldn't believe what was happening. I didn't even know how they did it, but they had an IEP meeting without me. Dustin was having a lot of problems. The school prior to that, which was Woolley, they were punishing him for his hand not being able to write, saying he was lazy. They were giving him repeated timeouts when he was supposed to get, there's 4 stipulations in an IEP that he was supposed to have. Make sure he understands what you're saying and then proceed. Eye contact, positive reinforcement, continue positive. Well, this school was punishing him. Every time he stood up from a timeout, he was getting put back in, it was just crazy, it was terrible, yeah. So therefore, I mean, to take Dustin to the store, everybody who knows and sees me, they know we're going through it. It's a hard kid to handle. His disabilities are rough. And I know that if they're not addressed and if I can't get him straight, the less chance he's gonna have as he gets older to have his own life outside from me and Jason. I've told Jason, I mean, we may very well have to take care of him his whole life. If you can't learn the rules to the road, you can't drive, okay? It's disturbing to me. It's very important.
So what happened with the shock incident?
Okay. The school called, I missed their phone call by 9 minutes because the thing I had my case in, I called them right back immediately which was within 9 minutes. I have 5 other emergency contacts, which is my daughter is one of them, for them to call. They didn't call none of them. They told me my son was sick. They just said he was sick, and he didn't feel good. I was there within 5 minutes, and my friend was there and had a vehicle. When I got into the office, he was in the nurse's office by himself. His shirt was soaked. Slobber was hanging from his mouth, like if his mouth was numb from the dentist. His tongue was out his mouth. And I got him into the car, got him home. And right there, he turned blood red, and his hands were stiffed out. I called the paramedics. The ambulance got him to the hospital, and they gave him, right upon going in there, they gave him adrenaline, 2 shots in each leg. And this is the thing, just so I can explain about Dustin's disabilities and his comprehension. It was horrific because I had to cover him, of course he's deathly afraid of shots, of course, like most kids are, but Dustin has a tendency to, with the anxiety, be even more scared than the normal child with noises, anything. We're walking across the street last night, there was a car that backfired, and it's brutal. We're walking across a crosswalk, I have to grab him. It's life or death to him. He just, anyhow, when I was hiding him and hovering over him from them coming to give him the shots, the doctors got a blanket and was wrapping his legs up just so he doesn't jump, because he has to get 4 shots, 2 in each leg of adrenaline. He thought, we talked about this after, because he was pretty out of it. But he said, all I could do was apologize to him, I was sorry. And he started screaming my name. He thought they were tearing him to pieces. I mean, this was his reality. He didn't understand the severity of why. He was mad at me for a while. He was very angry. He thought I helped the doctors hurt him.
So why did you decide you took him out of school?
They admitted him for 2 days in the hospital. He had to do 2 days. Until nighttime, till 12 o'clock at night, they had to keep giving him adrenaline. Even though he had an IV, they had to come and give him shots. It was really bad off.
What caused this, do you know?
The Risperdal medication, that is why I left Mojave Mental Health Center. They insisted I kept him on Risperdal. His face was puffy. I said, look, this stuff ain't doing him good. And the doctor was like, well, just keep him on it. And I said, you know what, it's not doing him good. It's causing problems. Them are allergic reaction signs. I took him off it myself, okay?
Do you feel that the school handled the situation
Oh,
well?
no, they're all trained. They're trained to see anaphylaxis shock.
How long was he there, do you think?
They had him in the office, from what I know, over 20 minutes, like that condition by himself. They didn't check his, nothing. They should have had him in the paramedics.
So then it's at that point you decided to take him out of that school?
Absolutely, absolutely, I was done.
What did you do then with regard to continuing his education?
Well, there was another incident that happened, and I still had him in that school until that day of anaphylaxis shock, yes, which was the school facilitator, Angela Knight, squeezed his hand with both hands till he cried because he reached for a toy. Now, this was admitted to me, and a week goes by, I report it to the principal, nobody seems to be doing nothing about it. I said, look, my son now is afraid. He don't want to be, it was just horrific. Well, when I reported this to the OCR, they gave me a notice saying they had to restrain Dustin, and the reason that she squeezed his hand like that is that he went to hit another kid. So anyways, I just wanted to clarify that right fast. I went to the teacher that he got along with because I could tell by the way my son, his behavior of a person when they're good to him. I mean, we've got to know each other very well without having to say words because, the disabilities. He can more explain things now, but he liked Deborah Armstrong. So I approached her and offered her $200 a month if she could tutor my son, because my goal was for my son to learn. That's all I was thinking about. I wanted him to learn. Anything that gives him progress. I enrolled him in the online school. I paid for months of K-12, but they didn't have nothing that was beneficial. I thought it was gonna work out, but it wasn't. But she started tutoring him for him to read, be able to read, you have to be able to identify a sentence, the front, the back of the book, where the title is, how many words in a sentence, how many letters in a word, and then you can start reading. That's where we were at before all the court stuff started, and on the weekends he's not here, so it's all tossed up right now. But I want her to continue tutoring him, that's a must, and his school. Mr. Popek has noticed some things with my son now. I spoke with him
Who is
2 days.
Mr. Popek?
The principal of the school, CC Ronald, right now, because I have been steady in the school
Now, you put him in school when? The current school?
in October.
Okay.
And they had to do an IEP before I could start him. That's out of my hands. He has to be placed by the school district. I can't do it. So we had to have this
Did you
IEP.
agree with the current
No.
existing
No.
IEP? Why?
Yeah.
Well, the first sentence says my son don't have expressive and receptive language. Yeah, he does. I mean, his psychiatric doctor that prescribes his medications, she wrote a letter to the school saying, look, he has developmental delays. He was diagnosed at 3 years old, because all this was seen at 3 years old, about how it's going to impact his social life, how he has nonverbal learning disorders, which I'm teaching Dustin now. He has learning disorders, LD. That's another qualification where, that's why he shouldn't be in the kind of class that he's in. He's protected under the law 504 FAPE and the IDEA, which means once they have disabilities like that, that is not supposed to take him and put him in this seriously emotionally disturbed, because everything he needs help with isn't going to get addressed. He's not going to learn. He's not learning right now. He's not learning right now. He can't learn in the school. They're not addressing anything he needs help with. Now, I'm in disagreement with them because Dustin very much has expressive and receptive language issues. They were saying he didn't even need help with his speech. You can have a 5-minute conversation with my son and he can't even pronounce words right still. So yeah, there's a big problem. I'm definitely got a problem with that. But Mr. Popek said, which is the principal of CC Ronald, 2 days ago, that there's an annual IEP that's coming up and he wants to get this done. He's going to call me within the next week and have more thorough testing with Dustin, because he has seen now Dustin has problems in a large group, or he needs more one-on-one. That's why the tutor is real good. He needs, for Dustin to be able to learn, his ADHD, his attention span, he's just, but without this medication that he's on, it's even worse. It's mentally destroying him, not having his medications. It's making it impossible. I don't know what else to do. I mean, it's really rough. It's rough. And Jason can absolutely be a big, big help.
Do you
But
want
he-
him? Do you want Jason in his life?
Yeah, I do, absolutely.
Have you always wanted Jason in his life?
Absolutely.
What's your current?
he
Now,
could-
there was an issue with regard to the visitation that was denied on or about December 3rd
Oh.
or December 4th. We'll just deal with some specific issues and then we'll be done, okay?
Yes, that was the day that I had him into his physical therapy appointment that I had to get a referral for. And when Dustin was doing gymnastics, he was unmanageable for me. I didn't know why, but come to find out, that's when he wasn't getting his medications. This is his life we're talking about. This can mess him up from, the kid don't look out for cars. He can't go out the front door without me.
So
It's
what
starting to
happened on
bother
that
him.
Friday? Why did you deny contact?
I wanted an hour. It was the first time Dustin put his hands on me. He put 2 bruises on my arms. He wouldn't stop screaming in the truck when the lady was giving us a ride home. I covered his mouth because, the screaming was bad. I covered his mouth, he yanked my hands, and he succeeded to get my hand off his mouth. My son never does this to me. He was unmanageable, and I called Jason for help. To help. I was reaching out for anything. I told Jason, give me an hour when I get him home, please. Jason was demanding, it's my time, my day, now. You had to make your appointment. I didn't make this appointment for your day purposely. I took the appointment that came to me. But I get blamed for it. That's pretty much how it goes. So I said, look, Jason, can you give me I didn't want to leave my son like that going for the weekend. This is already, it's rough on me and Dustin. It's hard. Even after school, Dustin likes to come home to see me before he leaves. Okay, and it works out better because it is different for us. It's been a bit, but I'm willing to keep pushing to help. I don't want Dustin to have a hard time. I don't want it to be horrific for him. I told Jason if he could give me an hour so I could get home, call his behavioral therapist, find out how to handle this, and get Dustin calm and so he can leave better. Jason didn't want to do it. I said, forget it then. You're not getting him. If you don't have the decency to let me do this right, then forget it. Oh well, I'm not doing it. It was very rude. That's all I wanted. That's all I wanted was time to have us leave each other in a better way for the weekend.
Were there any other times that you denied him
No.
contact?
No. I just wanted his support.
Do you administer corporal punishment on the child?
I have, and I have, very rarely, and he gets time out in his room. And that's usually enough. I usually don't even have to.
Do
I
you
usually,
believe that Jason feels that corporal punishment is the answer to all
Jason
these
is a-
problems?
he's about corporal punishment. His son was dragged out of the truck, my son told me, by his uncle who he lives with, that is a third-time DUI felon. My son don't even know him. Dustin was sleeping in the truck, which that was, I don't question, Dustin can tell without knowing he's telling, okay? So I don't like, want to question him too much, but when he told, Ronnie dragged him out of the truck. Dustin kicked him in the face 2 times. He was scared to death of Ronnie, and Ronnie spanked him and said, that's what you're gonna get every time you hit an adult. Jason was off to the races. That's all I know. Jason left Dustin in his truck with this, they call him Papa, which is Ronnie's son, and Dustin was sleeping in the back of the truck. Jason went to these races, left Dustin in the truck with Ronnie, and that's how that came about.
Do you feel that, or do you have knowledge that Jason has delegated care of Dustin when he has had his weekend visits?
Yeah, Dustin gets left at people's friends' houses.
Objection, lack of personal knowledge.
Yes, there's no foundation.
He called me.
Stop,
Okay.
stop. It's your lawyer's job. Just answer the question that's asked.
Okay.
Keep
Has
going.
Jason ever told you specifically about any time that he's delegated care of
What do you mean
Dustin
by-
to others?
What do you mean by delegated?
Giving care to other people while he had his custodial weekend? Has Jason told you that I wasn't here, I left him with so-and-so?
Yeah, his 11-year-old cousin, his
Did he tell you
11-year-old
this?
nephew. I'm sorry?
Did Jason tell you this?
My son did, and then Jason admitted it.
What did Jason admit to?
That he left him with his 11-year-old son. I mean, his 11-year-old nephew.
For how long?
He never said how long, but can I say my son told me or no? At nighttime when Jason came home from wherever he was, my son was in a pool with an 11-year-old child.
With no other adults?
No other adults, my son just barely learned to swim. It was nighttime, I know that.
There are some issues with regard to Facebook, Dustin's Facebook.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. You know, they've made a lot about the text messages
Right.
about the sign or with the photo or whatever,
Right.
the poster, F the police that's in your house.
I took that down.
Do you try to indoctrinate
No,
Dustin to be prejudiced against minorities?
no, not at all. I mean, that logo about the police was a,
Without, you don't need to
Okay.
explain it.
okay.
You got rid of it? Did he even know
Yes.
it was there? Can he read?
No, he doesn't know.
Can he read?
No.
Does he
doesn't.
know what it says?
No.
With regard to those Facebook posts?
That was my.
Are those Dustin's Facebook posts that he's
No.
reading?
No, it's on my Facebook. That's on my Facebook. The one that was on Dustin's, and it was actually what his best friend made towards Jason was my world. Enter at your own risk. And it was a real nice, actually, I thought, it was because Jason don't know nothing about his son. Enter at your own risk, my world. That was something that Eric did. It wasn't, I mean, it had some like skulls around it. It was more like decoration. It wasn't, I mean, and there was a picture where Dustin was going pee, and he had this smirk on his face, and at this time he was like maybe barely 4 when I took that picture. It wasn't showing his butt or nothing, and he had a smirk on his face. That was it.
Does Dustin read Facebook
He doesn't
online?
know. No, what I plan on doing is when he gets older, I'm gonna give it to him. When he gets older, you know, it's just, everybody knows it's me. Everybody knows it's me. It's not Dustin.
And again, the question is, do you try to indoctrinate him to dislike or hate minorities?
I don't want him to hate anybody. I don't want him to
Do you
hate,
dislike or hate minorities?
no, I don't even want him to use the word hate. I mean, that's a very negative thing. I mean, I know myself from my own personal experience. I mean, I've grown a lot. I've raised a child, I've had my problems back in my life in my past, and I've came a long ways.
You feel like you've got past all of those issues?
Absolutely.
Just like the plaintiff has? Just like Jason has kind of got past some of those behavioral issues in the past?
Yeah, absolutely. Jason's done a lot for himself. He really has. And he could be a help to Dustin if he needs to accept his disabilities. He needs to not take him off medication. He needs to, this last visit that they had at my house, after court I invited Jason over. Jason came over and seen Dustin, and he came back over on Saturday. Now, Jason comes in and he says, "Go get dressed, Dustin." And I see my son look there, is afraid to say I can't. Why? Why? My son can't get dressed himself, and he knows this. Why is my son afraid to say, "Dad, I can't"? You can't do this to him. You can't. He needs help with everything. He needs help. He needs help. But Dustin knew better to say, "Dad, I can't do it."
You think he's afraid of him?
Yeah, I do actually. Yeah.
So you facilitated contact last week?
Yes. After every court hearing here I have. And whenever I know he's here in Vegas.
I'll come in and take photographs and gather evidence.
Right, basically, that's what happens. Yeah.
Now, based on your knowledge of your child, does your child handle change well? Drastic changes in his life?
No, he doesn't even, some things he don't understand. No, he don't change, no.
What effect do you think it would have on your child in the event that the court orders
It would devastate.
that the child
Yeah.
live with dad in California?
Me and my son are extremely close. Dustin says his dad is mean. And I don't like that. And I haven't even spoke to Jason about that because I don't want my son to suffer the repercussions when he goes with him. So I just try to make it the best I can for them. And I just encourage my son that his dad is trying and that he has, it's his first time with a kid. Dustin's a little difficult, and I just try to make it better, that's all. I just reassure him, and that's it.
Okay, I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Mr. Root, you want to take a break?
Yeah.
Yeah. Let's take, try to keep it at 5 minutes.
Okay.
Mr. Root, do you want to check in with Department G just to see what there's?
Yes, Your Honor, I certainly will call them.
Now, it's just a regular call of a bunch of cases, right?
It's just, basically.
Like they're checking accountings, annual accountings or something, or?
Well, Your Honor, it's a case that's 20 years old. I don't know anything.
Will they let you make a telephonic appearance?
As a matter of fact, the court has been advised.
Oh, yeah, okay, all right, well, no big deal. Let's take a 5-minute break. I mean, that took a lot longer than I thought, an hour, 20 minutes, but let's see if we can still get finished this morning, okay?
Yes.
All right, go on. Ma'am, you can step down, just be careful stepping down.
Okay, yeah.